Graduation day. The air smelled of fresh roses, caps, and gowns swaying in the breeze. I stood there in the crowd, clutching a bouquet and a small velvet box, a gift for the woman I'd supported for 4 long years. Every overtime shift, every missed holiday, every dollar I saved had gone to her tuition, her rent, her dream of a better future. Today was supposed to be the day we celebrated together. But as I waited outside the auditorium, I heard her laugh. A laugh I knew so well, followed by words that froze my blood. In that instant, the truth of those 4 years crashed down on me, and I realized I wasn't her partner. I was just her ATM, and she had no idea what I was about to do next. 4 years earlier, we were just 2 broke kids with big dreams. She, he knew, was the bright scholarship student who still needed a little extra to stay afloat. I was the warehouse guy who believed in hard work and loyalty. I picked up extra shifts, skipped vacations, sold my old car, and every paycheck I tucked a little more aside so she wouldn't have to struggle. She used to look at me with those soft eyes and whisper, "We're a team, you and me." I believed her. Every late-night call about exams, every emergency bill, I covered it without thinking twice. We had a plan, or so I thought. She would finish college, we'd move in together, start a business maybe, build a life brick by brick. People warned me, "Be careful, don't give too much." But I brushed it off. Love, I thought, isn't about keeping score, it's about showing up. And I showed up, every single time. During those years, I lived on instant noodles while she posted photos from weekend trips with her classmates. She called them study breaks. I didn't ask questions. When she hinted at wanting a new laptop, I found a way. When her rent went up, I found a way. Her parents, they called me a blessing. Her friends, they called me the supportive guy. It all sounded good until graduation season crept up. Then little things started feeling off. Secretive texts. A second phone she said was for school projects. Stories that didn't quite line up. But I pushed the doubts away. She was stressed, I told myself. Finals do that to people. The night before graduation, she stayed out late. Said she was working on a group presentation. I stayed home wrapping her gift, a gold bracelet engraved, with the words, "For every step we've taken together." I even wrote a speech in my head about how proud I was. I pictured her tears, her hug, the moment we'd both remember forever. On graduation day, the campus buzzed like a festival. Parents, friends, photographers everywhere. I stood near the entrance to the auditorium, holding her bouquet, my heart pounding. I caught a glimpse of her in her gown, radiant, smiling, but she wasn't alone. There was a man next to her, hand on her back, too familiar to be a casual friend. She tilted her head toward him and laughed in a way I hadn't heard in months. Then, just as I stepped closer, I heard the words that would split my world open. The words floated through, the noise of the crowd like a needle through skin. He doesn't suspect a thing. 4 years of tuition and rent, and soon we're free. At first, I thought I'd misheard. The auditorium was packed, camera shutters clicking, families cheering. But then she said it again, laughing softly to the man beside her. "He thinks. Today is about us. After the ceremony, I'll tell him it's over. You and I can finally start fresh." I froze. The bouquet sagged in my hands. All the nights I'd worked double shifts, all the bills I'd paid, all the dinners I'd skipped, compressed into a single moment of humiliation. They moved a few feet away, still whispering. I ducked behind a column, heart pounding so loud I could barely breathe. The man kissed her on the cheek. She didn't flinch. She leaned in. I wanted to storm over, to scream, to demand answers. But another part of me, the part that had sacrificed, calculated, endured, told me to stay, silent. If she'd been planning this for months, maybe even years, then a scene on the graduation floor would give her exactly what she wanted, a chance to play the victim, to paint me as the angry boyfriend. No, not today. Instead, I slipped out of the auditorium, sat in my car, and stared at the steering wheel. Rage, grief, disbelief came in waves. 4 years of my life, my savings, my faith, funding her double life. But somewhere under the pain, a strange clarity began to grow. She had a plan for her future. Now I would make mine. When the ceremony ended, she texted me a heart emoji and said she'd be busy with family and friends for a bit. I texted back, congratulations. Nothing else. While she posed for photos, I opened my laptop and began moving money, the joint savings account I'd built for our apartment, the emergency fund in my name that she didn't know I'd created. Everything I could protect, I did. The tuition payments? Gone. But at least my future wasn't. By the time she finished shaking hands and tossing her cap, her access to my accounts was closed. I showed up at the reception she'd invited me to, calm, polite, gift still in hand. She beamed, hugged me for the cameras, whispered, "We'll talk later tonight." Her other boyfriend stood a few tables away, glancing at me like I was an errand she'd forgotten to cancel. I smiled at them both, said nothing. For the rest of the evening, I was a ghost at my own investment. The man who paid for her dreams, quietly collecting the last pieces of his dignity. Later, when she tried to log into our shared account to plan the move, she discovered the truth. Texts poured in, calls, voicemails. I didn't answer. The last thing I sent her was a single line. "Congratulations on your degree. I hope it was worth it." And then I disappeared from her life as completely as she had planned to disappear from mine. But unlike her, I left without taking anything that wasn't mine. My silence became my revenge, and the life she'd built, on my back, crumbled before she even stepped into it. For a few days after graduation, silence was my only companion. Then the calls began. At first they were soft, pleading. "Hey, what's going on? Did something happen with the account?" Call. Me. Then angrier. "You can't just disappear on me. I need to talk to you. You owe me an explanation." I owed her nothing. 4 years of receipts were my explanation. Friends of hers reached out, trying to fish for information. She told them I was acting weird, that maybe I was jealous of her success. But little by little, the truth leaked out. Without my support, the lease on her apartment couldn't be renewed. The credit card in my name she'd been using for emergencies was cut off. The internships she'd boasted about were unpaid. She'd counted on me to float her until a job offer came through. Her new boyfriend, the one I'd heard at graduation, didn't have the money or patience to carry her. Within weeks, the bright new life she'd imagined started cracking. She showed up at my workplace once, eyes red, holding the bouquet I'd left at her reception table. She said she'd been under pressure, she'd made mistakes, she still loved me. I listened, nodded, and told her calmly, "You chose your future. I'm choosing mine." Then I walked away. She didn't follow. Word spread among our mutual friends. Some called me cold, some called me smart, but none of them offered to refund the tuition I'd paid. That was my lesson. Loyalty without boundaries is just self-destruction. And I'd learned it the hard way. In the months that followed, I poured my overtime hours into myself for the first time. I moved to a new city, finished a certification I'd postponed, paid off my debts. The small velvet box I'd brought to graduation, an engagement ring, I sold back to the jeweler and used the money as seed capital for a small side business. Every time I deposited a check from that business, it felt like a brick being laid in a foundation she could never stand on. I heard through friends that she tried to start a GoFundMe to rebuild her life. People donated at first, then stopped when they learned the details. Her new boyfriend left. Her parents refused to bail her out. She eventually moved back home, degree in hand, but no plan for the bills. She'd expected me to be her safety net forever. Now she was learning how hard. The ground really felt, do I feel sorry? Sometimes. Betrayal leaves a scar, but it also leaves a space for growth. In cutting her off, I wasn't just punishing her. I was saving myself. My revenge wasn't about screaming or shaming her. It was about taking back control and refusing to be used. Quiet, clean, final. Graduation day was supposed to be her new beginning. Instead, it became mine. And as I watched her life unravel from a distance, I realized that my silence had spoken louder than any confrontation ever could. She had written her own ending. I just stopped funding the sequel. Some people think revenge has to be loud, messy, explosive. But sometimes the quietest move is the one they never forget. I didn't shout, I didn't humiliate her in public. I just walked away and took back what was mine. And in doing so, I built a life that didn't include her lies. But what do you think? Was I right to cut her off without a warning? Should I have confronted her on graduation day in front of everyone? Or do you believe in second chances, even after years of betrayal? Have you ever sacrificed for someone only to discover they were using you? How did you handle it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories and your opinions might help someone else who's living the same nightmare right now. And if you'd like to hear more real-life revenge stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. There are plenty more twists and endings still to come.